My name is Raj Mehrotra. I'm the editor-in-chief for the Journal of American Society of Nephrology. I'm the senior editor-in-chief of the ASN Journal Portfolio, and I'm here with Dr. Manju Kurella Tamura, who's the deputy editor for JASN. I'm going to hand it over to her to introduce herself.
Hi, Raj. Nice to be with you. As you said, I'm the deputy editor for clinical science at JASN and professor of medicine at Stanford University and the Palo Alto VA. Thanks for having me.
So this is a conversation about something that we are hoping to introduce at JASN. Manju has led this initiative, and we have worked on this together. So we're going to play the role such that I'm going to be the questioner, and Manju is going to be the person who's going to answer the questions. And I know that people that are tuning in to listen to this podcast, they are interested in clinical trials, they're interested in Kidney Week, and they're probably very familiar with the late-breaking clinical trials session at Kidney Week, which is one of the highlights, if not the major highlight of the meeting. What is new this year?
So what's new this year is that JASN is partnering with the ASN Education and the late-breaking clinical trials committees to offer investigators the opportunity for their late-breaking clinical trial submission to undergo rapid peer review and, if accepted, online publication in JASN concurrently with Kidney Week. As part of the editorial team at JASN, we are really excited to bring this opportunity to our investigators who are at the cutting edge of nephrology science.
Of course, we are interested in clinical trials because that is high impact science that provides one of the highest level, if not the highest level of evidence for the efficacy and safety of therapeutics, largely in people with kidney disease. Of course, it's not limited to therapeutics. Of course, that's the reason why JASN is doing this. But why should people consider JASN? Why could it not be another journal that they may have an opportunity to do that with as well?
Well, you're bringing up a really good point. And of course, as investigators in the field, we want high impact nephrology research to reach a broad community and have the ability to impact clinical practice. Why should they choose JASN? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons. First, we have a supportive and efficient review process, and we have the ability to align our review timeline to work with the authors and give the authors a timely answer in terms of a go or no go for publication at JASN. One of the things that we're really excited to offer to authors is a visual abstract from the ASN publications team that investigators can use at their presentation at the Late Breaker. As many of your listeners and our listeners know, the ASN portfolio of journals has a global reach. In fact, we have the largest reach of any of the nephrology journals. And we have we deploy multiple tools to maximize impact, such as accompanying editorials, podcasts, social media, the In the Loop series, and I could go on. So we really think that this opportunity for a simultaneous presentation at Kidney Week and publication in JASN will supercharge the scientific attention for the investigators' work.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we are all part of the JASN team, and we believe we bring a lot of value to researchers in disseminating high impact science that they've often taken years to generate. JASN is probably the only nephrology journal that offers this opportunity to our investigators. And I'm sure the investigators that are considering submitting to JASN for simultaneous publication, an obvious question that they would have for us: have you done this before? Do you know what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we had some very early experience of assessing late-breaking clinical trial publications last year but this was not intended to be simultaneously reviewed with the late-breaking session. And then based on this experience, we then went ahead and had the opportunity to invite some manuscripts for review for the spring ERA meetings and published clinical trial concurrently with its presentation at the ERA late-breaking session. And the feedback that we got from the experience was strongly positive. And that's why we feel we can confidently offer this to the Kidney Week authors this year.
If I may, I just want to read a part of the feedback we received from Dr. Heerspink, who also happens to be the recipient of the Young Investigator Award from ASN this year. And just reading a part of what he told us is that the peer review process was extremely fast, with only 6 weeks from submission to publication. Moreover, the feedback and guidance we received from the editors and reviewers helped us to clarify and improve several important aspects of the publication. We thank the JASN editors for their efforts to rapidly disseminate important clinical research with the global nephrology community. So not only have we done it previously, we are committed to continue to do this and support the authors to give them a quick response on a go to no go. I think it will also be helpful for authors to know what is the scope of this that we are offering for simultaneous publication at JASN along with its presentation at Kidney Week.
Yeah, so first, let me say that JASN is interested in all science that meaningfully advances the field and is internally and externally valid. Having said that, for the Kidney Week late-breaking clinical trial session, we are going to prioritize phase 2, 3, and 4 trials for the expedited review process. So studies that have both positive and or negative outcomes are welcome to submit, as are secondary analyses of clinical trials that might offer new mechanistic understanding. For negative studies, we want to be sure that the studies are adequately powered. Now, having said that we are going to prioritize clinical trials, I'll also say that, we also want to leave open the possibility that there could be high impact observational studies that we would consider through this mechanism.
And then, it's as people do this, they would want to know, how do they get started? How do they let us know that in a paper they submit is for simultaneous publication with presentation at a late-breaking clinical trial session?
I think the easiest way is for them to reach out to one of us. It could be reaching out to you, Raj, myself as the deputy editor for clinical science, or to Natalie, our managing editor, to determine if the research is of interest to us. JASN also has an online submission portal, and I believe authors can indicate in that portal that they're specifically interested in the late-breaking clinical trials simultaneous publication option.
What should the authors expect in terms of timeline, like in terms of how long will it take for us to review it initially? When will we get back to them with an initial answer, whether or not we are interested? What will you tell them?
The first thing to know and the first thing to keep in mind is, when do they need to reach out to us by if they're thinking about this opportunity? And so September 4th, that's the date that the late-breaking clinical trial submission window closes on the ASM website. That's the date that we're also going to ask authors to reach out to one of us to indicate their interest. And then the submission would be due at JASN by September 6th. This would give us enough time to have the manuscript peer-reviewed and undergo probably at least one, if not more, rounds of revision, with the target of publishing the manuscript online simultaneously during Kidney Week, during the week of October 24th.
What I think summarize essentially in how we are approaching this is that yes, it will be expedited. Yes, we will be able to publish it by the time of its presentation at Kidney Week. but we are not shortchanging the peer review process such that we would feel confident that we are able to stand behind the science that has undergone rigorous peer review as one would expect a paper does when it is submitted to JASN. Is there anything the authors can do to facilitate that peer review of clinical trials for timely review and presentation?
One of the things that we have learned by going through this a couple of times over the last 2 sessions is that it really helps to expedite the review process if the authors submit the protocol and the statistical analysis plan up front. And that just really sort of expedites the review process and facilitates the timely review for the authors.
Yeah, and then of course, there are certain other things that we require, such as disclosures from every author that every author needs to submit independently. And so we would hope for a partnership to make sure that happens. And this all sounds very exciting. We at JASN are really excited by the possibility of partnering with researchers from around the world that are thinking of submitting their work for the late-breaking clinical trial session. Any last thoughts for authors? And again, can you one more time remind people of the deadline for contacting JASN?
Yeah, so the deadline at JASN for contacting us is September 4th. The submission deadline to have the manuscript considered for this opportunity is September 6th. They can reach out to you, to me, to Natalie, really any of the JASN editorial team who will direct the inquiry to us. And I guess as a closing thought, just want to say how that we're at JASN really excited to offer this opportunity to the nephrology research community and look forward to partnering with them on this.
I want to close by just a token, my deepest appreciation and gratitude to all members of the editorial teams, not just to you, Manju and Natalie, but also to our associate editors, to our reviewers, to our visual abstract editors. Without their support, we could not make this possible. And we also welcome any feedback from the authors in what we could do at our end to make this process more seamless and easy for them to keep on considering JASN for this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast is copyrighted by the American Society of Nephrology. All rights reserved. All content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be medical advice. This podcast should not be used in a medical emergency or for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition. Please consult your doctor or other qualified healthcare professional if you have any questions about any medical condition or before taking any drug, changing your diet, or commencing or discontinuing any course of treatment. Thank you for listening to this podcast from the American Society of Nephrology.